Hi friends, welcome to Loved by Cacao. This is a home for all of us who love cacao, to share our stories, to elevate the voice of cacao through voices from all around the world. Here we will connect the threads of light that cacao is weaving between us, from heart to heart. Thank you for being here. You might like to make yourself a delicious cup of cacao to enjoy while you listen, to tune in with this sacred medicine. I am Pania, lover and facilitator of cacao, and I invite you to step in through the door to this cozy home. Come to sit on a cushion in this circle together, and may we allow ourselves to be here, to be loved by cacao. Hello my friends, it's been a little while, welcome back. I'm really happy to be back with you again after a few weeks, and I'm wondering how you are. Are you feeling busy? Are you feeling peaceful? Where are you at? I'll tell you where I'm at. I know you can't really tell me where you're at, but feel free to message me if you want to say hi over on Instagram at Loved by Cacao. I am at a beautiful location. I'm in a house that I'm house sitting right now, and it's very hot today, which is such a blessing because I felt like it took a long time for summer to come this year, and it finally came, and now it's very humid and hot. I almost feel like I'm in the tropics, and I'm sitting in a room with big sliding doors that open right up, and I'm looking out at a bay. There's mangrove trees, there's a tidal bay where the river meets the sea, and the tide is out right now, and because it's so hot I have to have the windows open to let the air in, otherwise I'm going to be sweating like crazy while I talk to you, which wouldn't be very comfortable. So I've got the doors open, which means that during this episode you may hear a fly buzz past once or twice. You may hear birds, you may hear a dog barking in the distance, and maybe even a boat going by in the estuary. So that's where I am, and right directly in front of me I'm sitting on the floor, as usual, and in front of me I have my cacao altar with all my beautiful crystals and things, and it's been a little while since I've got them all out, and honestly it just feels so calming to my mind and so heart-opening to take out all these beautiful treasures and sit with them and appreciate them. And it can seem almost childlike to play with crystals and little trinkets and beautiful things, but that's what we need. We need this inner child playfulness. I think it can really help to bring us into the moment, and I find that taking out all my treasures, it really does settle me into the present moment and opens the space in such a sweet way to allow cacao in, and I just love it. And I think I love it especially today because I haven't taken the time to do this in a wee while, not quite in the way I have today, where it feels really intentional and I've been very present with the whole process and I'm giving it time. I have all the elements in front of me and of course my beautiful cacao. So have you got a cacao? Would you like to drink cacao with me today? I have been drinking Keith's cacao. I felt that I wanted to return to my original source, the first cacao I ever had, and it's always very grounding for me because it was my first, because it's kind of part of my origin story of coming to cacao. So I find it, just very grounding and familiar, and I also love the bitterness of it because it's so earthy. So that's what I've been drinking, quite a strong cup, a nice ceremonial dose, and I've been sitting in ceremony, tuning in, playing music, and I'd like to invite you to join me, to tune in. Perhaps you have made your cacao already and you'd like to drink some with me, or feel free to pause and go and make some and come back. Or even if you're not drinking cacao, just tune in, receive the frequencies, receive the medicine, receive the heart opening that's here for you. And I'm really honoured that you are here with me today to do this, and that you're taking the time for yourself to just take a moment. You don't have to be in ceremony for the whole episode or anything like that. It's just so powerful to take a moment to breathe, ground, tune in, and I know that so many of us especially need that at this time of year when things can feel quite busy finishing up the year. And these tuning in practices, these grounding, pausing, breathing practices can be extra important to keep us centered and grounded and present with the busyness and the distraction and the pressures that the end of year can put on us. So I'm going to invite you to do that with me for a moment and use this as an opportunity to practice what it is that is so important right now, to remember to come back to the present moment, to come back from all the distractions and bring your energy to the here and now. So with that being said, I invite you to take a breath with me. Let's breathe together for a moment. Let's breathe in, knowing that we're safe to be here right now. Breathing in that it's safe to pause. It's safe to acknowledge the body and this present moment. Breathing in safety. And breathing out any pressure to be somewhere else. Breathing in that safety, breathing in a sense of knowing that you can be here right now. And breathing out the pressure or the distraction, just letting it go. Just seeing all those little things, those unfinished tasks or things to do coming up. Just letting them fall away for a moment, knowing that you can come back to them when we're finished, when the time is right. And feeling your body in the space that it's in right now, in this current moment. Whether that's feeling your feet on the ground or feeling your bum on the ground or a seat. And just locating your center. Locating your heart space and your solar plexus and the center of your energy. Bringing your awareness into that center. And letting yourself be here for a moment. Letting ourselves arrive in the moment. And as we do, we make a pause, we make space to ask for Mama Cacao to join us in this space, to join us in this presence. Dear, beautiful cacao, this present, loving, unconditional love energy, this grand teacher who we adore. Please be with us here in this moment, beautiful cacao. Thank you for joining us, bringing your love and your frequency, your medicine. Thank you for the gift that you are. Thank you for being here for me, for the listeners, for anyone tuning in with you and your medicine. Thank you to all of the people who work with you and bring you to us. Thank you for your nourishment, your flavor, your deliciousness, your joy. And as we tune into that gratitude of the gift of Cacao's frequency, bringing your awareness to any intention you'd like to bring into this moment. Is there an intention you'd like to bring to Cacao, or that you'd like to bring into your day? Just asking it to come forward. Perhaps you'd like a bit more spaciousness in your day, or your breath. Perhaps a sense of calm or joy or lightness. Maybe it's some clarity around problem solving, an intention to make space for the answers to come in. Whatever it is, bring your awareness to that intention and ask Cacao for her support in this moment. Ask your heart to open to the possibility of support and the possibility of new solutions. And thank you for those solutions and that support. And thank you for being here. And may we carry extra presence into the rest of our day and into this moment for the rest of this episode also. So with that, letting us come back into the space again, bringing our awareness to the room that you're in and to your cacao. If you have a cup of cacao, you might like to enjoy that now, drink in that deliciousness. And as you do, I will be sharing with you some words and some thoughts and whatever Cacao wants to bring through today. As usual, I have some ideas about what to speak about, but because I've been sitting in ceremony, I feel very open and I feel quite present. And so I like to allow the space to just see what Cacao wants to bring through as well. Oftentimes my notes can come more from my mind. Some come from my heart, some come from my mind. And when I sit down in these spaces with you and with Cacao, I really have the intention to give space to what wants to come through in the moment, getting my mind out of the way, because I trust in the higher guidance and the higher wisdom of Cacao. She's so much older than I am, many thousands of years older, millions of years older, and that divine wisdom channels through her and comes through me, I hope, if I can allow more space for it to come through. So I definitely trust the divine and the Cacao wisdom over my own mind. And I will say, when I was writing the notes for this episode, some of them have come through sitting with Cacao and allowing her words, and some are just ideas of what I think needs to be spoken. So we'll try to find a balance here. And yeah, so thank you again for being here with me and being open to my flow, as well as tuning in with the frequency of Cacao, because I know that the more of us who tune in with this frequency, the better. And actually, as I say that, and as you're drinking your cacao and you're sitting with the presence of the frequency of cacao, I remember that I have a poem for you. I thought to perhaps share it later, but it's telling me to share it now. And this poem came through because one of the things that I wanted to share with you today is that for the past month, I've been in a very intentional space with cacao. Some people call this kind of intentional time a dieta. I haven't exactly done a cacao dieta before, which is where you are much more intentional with being with the frequency of the medicine you're working with every day for a certain period of time. I didn't follow any strict protocols, so I don't know that I can exactly call it a dieta, but I did make the intention for, initially it was going to just be 21 days, and then it became clear it needed to be 28 days. So I made the intention to be very present with cacao in a much more focused way than I had been. I mean, I sit with cacao often. If you've listened to this podcast, you know that I've been sitting with cacao on and off for around 8 years, and there's certain periods where I am very intentional with her, and there's times when I'll have my daily cacao, but I don't necessarily make the space to really sit and listen and be open. And so it came to me recently that I needed to do that I needed to set myself a specific time to sit with her every day with my pen and paper and my heart open and just see what I could learn in a new way and what wanted to come through, and develop my relationship with cacao in an even more intentional way than I had. And I've done that for shorter periods, but I hadn't done, not that I remember anyway, I would probably remember if I had done that, but I hadn't done a 21 or a 28 day period before. And so that's what I've been doing. I've just recently finished that, and this beautiful poem came through during this time because each day, sitting with cacao, sitting with my pen and paper, new messages would come through. And I've learned a thing or two from doing this, which I'll share with you after this poem, but I'd like to share this with you now, especially if you're drinking cacao right now. I think this will be a really beautiful poem for you. So here we are. It's called The First Sip. The first sip is like relief on the lips. The second says, wow, give me more of this. By the fifth, the warmth has a soothing spread. Tingles ripple up sweetly into the head. They shimmer from the heart with its enlivened beat, moving through the arms, down the legs, and into the feet. The forehead softens, furrows forget how to bend. The 7th, 8th, and 9th sips are gone too fast, and by the last you are begging for it never to end. But when you breathe more, give thanks, soften your jaw. Place your hands on your heart and give space to create or to be God's art. You know then that you've had just enough with its tasty froth and its pretty fluff to remind you once again who you really are, that you are love and you are loved all the way to the stars. I hope you know that you are loved, and that, like the name of this podcast, you can feel loved by cacao. And this is an example of what can come through. Sometimes when I am really in tune with the medicine or with nature, these words just flow through. I don't know where they come from, but they come. And this is what can happen when we create the space, not just for poetry, but for any art you want to create. Cacao is an incredible, incredible friend for our creativity. And I had a lot of words come through in these 21 days. And something that was interesting was that I feel in so many ways that sitting with cacao, and I say 21 days, but that's because originally it was going to be 21 days, but then I felt to extend it. So actually it became 28 days. And in so many ways, I felt that it reflected relationships with those that we love or any other kind of relationship, whether it's with another plant medicine, with Mother Earth, with God. It showed me some beautiful metaphors about relationship. So I want to share some of those metaphors with you. I have some more words that came through that I'd like to share with you. And I'd also like to talk in this episode about presence and centering. So we might do another little centering exercise. I really want to support you in these busy holiday season times. And I'd like to also share a little more about cacao and how you can work with cacao alongside other modalities, healing modalities. And I'll tell you about how I do that. And I'll probably end with a prayer for us to stay in our hearts for this time. So if you want to hear all of those things, stay tuned. I probably should have told you that at the beginning. We're already 20 minutes in or so, but here we are. Now you know what's coming up for the rest of this episode. The place that I would like to begin with all of this is sharing a few words on why there hasn't been a Loved by Cacao episode in a few weeks. It's been a little while, and there's a few reasons for that. And I don't share this to explain myself necessarily, but I feel it's helpful to share my process with you for a few reasons. So why I haven't shared is a couple of things, and it's connected to doing these 28 days with cacao. So I thought that I would share from within that container that I put myself in. I committed to sitting with her every day more intentionally, and I thought I'd be able to create a podcast episode from that place. However, it didn't feel right to do that, and I also felt that I couldn't on some levels. On one level, I actually became quite stuck. It's the first time since launching this podcast that I felt a sense of kind of like writer's block, but podcast block. And I think part of that was being in this intentional container with cacao, and it felt as if I needed to stay in that container and share after it's closed rather than sharing from within it. It felt like a very tender, vulnerable and intimate space, and I became a little more inward than usual. I mean, I go through periods of being more inward and more outward, seasons and shifts, as most of us do, I think. But I felt quite inward, and it didn't feel as easy as I thought it would to share from that place. So that's part of it. And then also, I think it took me into some of my shadows. So, we know cacao as being this beautiful, joyful plant medicine that opens our heart, that brings more love, and, this is called Loved by Cacao. So it brings the love in, it brings us more heart expansion, more playfulness, connection, all of these things. And also, in order to make even more space in our being for those things, sometimes old stuff that's standing in the way needs to clear out. And I think that being in this very intentional portal with Cacao, some of that stuff came up, and some of it caused me to go into an old pattern of avoidance and not necessarily wanting to look at it. So that caused me to get a little bit stuck around my creativity. And it's interesting because at first, so now I'm delving into talking about these 28 days, because it's very intertwined with me not sharing a podcast episode, and I'll dance back and forth between these two subjects. But in these days, I really thought that I'd feel creative the whole time, because at the beginning I was very creative and there was a lot of words coming through. I was really excited for the process, and yeah, every time I would sit down with Cacao on those days, the words would just pour out on the paper. And then at a point, things went quiet. And I see it as a really beautiful metaphor for a relationship with an old friend, for example, or someone we haven't seen in a while, someone we really care about. And when we get together again, it's like, oh, there's so much to talk about. There's so many things that I need to tell you. And it was like Cacao was just waiting for me to make that extra intentional space for these words to come pouring in. And I would sit down and it was like she was right there going, okay, I'm telling you this and this and this, and all this stuff would flow through, and I would feel really connected and creative. And yeah, it's just like that catching up with the old friend. It's exciting. There's so much to share. And then at a certain point in the catch up or in the reconnection, a stillness comes, because you've kind of got to a point of saying everything that needs to be said. And in that spaciousness that comes in, it allows for new experiences together, or it allows for integration of all the other things that have come through. And we can come to a place of actually sitting quite quietly together. You know, those with a good friend, when you've said what needs to be said, and you can come to a really calm, content silence with the other person. That sacred space of being comfortable in the silence with somebody else. And Cacao went quiet on me. And it was an opportunity for me to go even deeper into my heart, into myself. And actually, I resisted that a little bit. And in that resistance, I got a little bit stuck. And that's where I felt like I didn't have words to share outside of myself. So I sat with it, and I noticed some old grief, and I sat with that. And this is a really beautiful example, I feel, of how Cacao can actually take us into these things that we might be avoiding, because I noticed my avoidance coming up because I wasn't in an intentional container with Cacao. And I had made a commitment to sit with Cacao and myself, really ultimately myself, because Cacao is the supportive medicine to help me do that. I'd made this commitment, so I had to notice my avoidance, which is kind of irritating in the moment, you know, like you want to avoid the noticing because you want to avoid, but I had to notice it. And that's a beautiful thing, because Cacao was helping me do that, and she went quiet to give me the space. That's how it feels anyway. It's like this spaciousness came in, this silence, and I'm left going, what do I do with this? Oh, okay. I have to go into it. So it's taken me into a deeper space of acknowledging the areas that I prefer to avoid. And coming to the end of this container with Cacao, I still feel a little vulnerable around some of that, but I feel much more willing to go there and more accepting. And even more, I feel it as I'm saying it, even more gratitude coming through for the unconditional love that Cacao provides. Because I can feel how being held in that space with zero judgment. It's just a process of witnessing and allowing. And now I feel less afraid to go even deeper next time if I need to. Or just, I feel I have more of a knowing in my body of how to go to those places. And as someone who has had a lot of grief in the past, at a young age, at 21, my mum passed away, and various other things have happened through my life to give me strong experiences of grief. And so a tendency for me has been to want to avoid. And I'm telling you this because it's so powerful when we can meet with ways to shift these patterns that actually dull our experience of life. And when I sat down with Cacao today to be in ceremony with her, I had this moment where I played a beautiful song for myself to tune in, and I started to cry, and instantly I started to laugh. It was like the the tears wanted to come through, and the laughter at the very same moment. Like, it's hard to explain, but it's like all the emotion was coming through, and my first thought was, oh, I haven't been able to cry lately so much because of the avoidance, and therefore I haven't been able to laugh as much. When we're avoiding all the emotions, and it was just so funny to see the tears and the laughter coming through at the same time. The more we give space for the tears, the more we can experience the joy as well. And it was like I had this instantaneous experience of that idea that, when we dull out the emotions we don't want to feel, we're also dulling our ability to feel the emotions we do want to feel. And yeah, I felt it in that instant. So it's a beautiful reminder that one of the biggest gifts we can give ourselves is to let ourselves feel all of the things. And it doesn't have to be that you sit there and get stuck in it, or let it stay, or spend time dwelling. It's definitely not about dwelling. It's about feeling it so it can move through. And so yeah, I'm starting to feel that I've had a bit of a breakthrough with these weeks of sitting with Cacao. And the very act of sitting here with you now, you're witnessing me having another breakthrough, because I've been blocked around the podcast. And so I'm really, really, really enjoying the fact that my voice has returned, that I feel like I've been given the green light to go forward. It's almost like Cacao had me quiet, and now it's like, okay, let's go, let's speak again, let's share. And I'm feeling really grateful for that. It's exciting. But this is an example of how this podcast for me is kind of a big giant ceremony in itself. I've said it before, but I'm really letting Cacao lead the way. And I'm going through my own processes as I create this podcast. I don't have it all planned out from the start. I don't even know half the time where it's going. At first I thought, I'm going to make an episode every week, but I've come to realize that because it's a whole big journey in itself that I'm experiencing while other people are coming in to be a part of it or to listen. And Cacao is bringing through the medicine that she wants to bring through as we go. So I have the intention to show up as much as I can and also surrender to the process. I'm trying to find that balance. And it was an edge for me to not release anything for 4 weeks, because I thought, are people going to stop listening, lose interest, think that I'm not getting anywhere? Like, all this mind stuff came up. So that's a lesson in itself too. It's like, am I any less worthy if I don't release a podcast every week? No, of course not. So I don't know how much you enjoy hearing about my own processes, but I personally like hearing about other people's processes with their creation and with their learning and with their growing, because we're all learning here together, aren't we? And yes, I have many years with Cacao. I have a lot of experience, and I'm still on the journey too. And I like to share that journey and be open about it, because it also helps me see the journey more clearly, and hopefully it can help you understand your journey. And so, all that to say that I guess I needed to be in my own process for a few weeks, and now we have another episode that I'm recording right now, and I do hope to have more regularity at some stage, but I think it'll be like in waves. And I have quite a few wonderful people who I'm really excited to speak to in 2025, and I've had lots of people saying yes, they're keen. We're just are letting the end of the year become the end of the year so we can move into a new year and everybody can feel they have the space to record. And I honour every episode with a sense of spaciousness, because to me every episode feels almost like a ceremony in itself, and I absolutely cannot rush or force any of this, because then it just will not feel real or authentic to me. A lot of this for me is about being authentic to the journey. And so yeah, I guess that's another reason I'm sharing this with you, is because I want to translate the authentic experience of what cacao is. And the only way I feel I can do that is by making sure that every episode I release is also being created with authenticity and integrity. So that's my story about that, and those 28 days have been a beautiful experience. And another thing that really came through strongly is seeing how we know this, but sometimes we have to remember that the more we put in, the more we get back. And I really feel like my relationship with cacao is even stronger after having this intentional time. And I noticed how much it's like other relationships. And like for 28 days, I'm not going to have a full-blown, intentional, big, long ceremony with cacao every day for 28 days. That's just not possible. I'd probably have to stop everything else in my life to do that. So some days it was just simply me making a cacao, sitting down with a pen and paper, drinking the cacao with intention and seeing what words wanted to come through. Other days I'd take a bit more time, I'd meditate more intentionally for longer, I'd play some music, I'd get even more into it, and not just about the time, but the intention and the really heartfelt nature and the presence with which I was showing up. So I guess what I'm trying to say here is that I can see, looking back on this process, the more present I was for cacao, the more I felt that I received her presence and gifts. And I could really feel it. Like, there were some days when I almost didn't want to show up because I was in my head and I felt like I should be doing something else, and I had all these to-do lists or whatever, and so I would just kind of half-heartedly sit down being like, okay, I'm showing up for this thing I committed to, and as much as I love cacao, I don't really want to be here right now. And she was more quiet. I didn't receive as much because I wasn't able to give as much. Whereas the days I've sat down with gratitude in my heart and presence and openness, it's been amazing what's come through. And today I created the most intentional ceremony that I have in a little while. And I call it a ceremony because I know that word can be, some people prefer not to use it, but for me it feels ceremonial the way that I take the time to lay everything out. I'm very present with every aspect. I'm bringing in all the elements. I'm really connecting with the land where I am and bringing in the music and the intentionality and making it a really beautiful, almost like a dance with all the aspects that I'm bringing in. And I do all that before even drinking the cacao, and also bringing intention and gratitude. Like spending time with the intention and the gratitude. And having done that today, I feel so clear and creative and present and excited and joyful, and I don't know who's going to listen to this, but I feel like I'm sitting with all of you, whoever you are listening. I feel like we're here together and I'm sharing from my heart and my joy. That's how it feels right now. And I think that is because I took the time to really set it up and bring myself into the space. So I'm seeing how it can be like that in all areas of our life, and it's a beautiful metaphor for, like, are you wanting to nurture your creativity, for example? And we cannot expect our creativity to pour through if we're not showing up for it or giving it space. If we're feeling like there's some kind of difficulty in a certain relationship in our life, we may not, or we may struggle to find the healing and the love in that relationship if we're not showing up with a sense of openness and love and presence. The more we put in, the more we receive. And the putting in can just simply be a willingness to be present. I'm not saying like you have to continuously overgive in order to receive. It's not like that. It's just intention and presence can bring so much more life, and we get to feel and experience life. And isn't that what we want? I think so many of us crave that sense of experience because that's the connection that we desire. And so this is one of the many things that came through in my 28 days, and a little bit later I'll read you some words that came through from Cacao. There's always a little bit of channeling that happens in these spaces of her words coming through onto my page. So there you go, that's a little bit of my experience. There's a lot more to it, and in some ways I'm still processing it because it only finished a couple of days ago. But I'm really grateful I was able to do that, and I think I'll probably do it again at some stage. And I encourage you, if you have any relationship you want to bring more life into, just make it an intention for a certain amount of time. It doesn't have to be a whole month. It could be even just 5 days or 7 days. Make the intention to bring your awareness to that relationship for those days and see what comes up. And if it's cacao, I really encourage that. I love to do it in the morning, but it could be whatever time of day works for you. And it's just making that time to really sit and listen. And ask for support in whatever area you need support with. So, speaking of support and relationships, I'm going to transition now to talking a little bit about this time of year and cacao for the holidays. Have you thought about bringing cacao into your holiday experience and into your relationships? And I hope that you have some cacao. You might still have time to order some if you're listening to this soon after I release it. And if you do want to order cacao, I have discount codes for Keith's Cacao, which is what I'm drinking today, and one of my other very favourites, Cacao with a K. You probably know about that. If you've been listening, you would have met Mackenzie. She's been on 2 episodes already. And these are 2 of my beloved favourites, and you're welcome to use my discount codes to order. I don't know if you can get it in time for Christmas, but maybe for the new year. And highly, highly recommend bringing cacao into this time of year. It's such a beautiful way to connect with others, and it can be a really beautiful gift to bring to your family or those you're spending time with. And you don't necessarily have to bring a whole ceremonial aspect or even talk about the spiritual side of cacao. If they're not open to that, you could just say it's a really special hot chocolate, it's a superfood. You can bring in your magic without having to explain it if you feel that it can be supportive in the environments you're going to be in. And hopefully your family are open to it, and if they're not, just tell them it's a special drink that you love to drink and you love to share it with them. And even if they're open to drinking it, they're going to receive so much benefit without even having to know all of the stuff they might call woo-woo around cacao. You don't have to tell them it's a plant medicine or anything like that. As long as they know that they're drinking somewhat strong cacao and they give their consent to drink cacao, and you know that you're not, if you're just don't serve it too strong, I would say, if it's for someone who's not having it ceremonially. If you serve a very strong cacao, say like 35 to 40 grams, which is about a ceremonial dose, it is best to make sure that people don't have high blood pressure, they're not on high blood pressure pills, or and are not on antidepressants ideally, because high dose cacao can be contraindicated in those situations. So just a quick awareness around that. I'm definitely not advocating any harm in any way by serving cacao, but if you serve cacao and just allow it to be something that people can choose to drink if they want to or not, you might be surprised to see what happens. And there might be more open conversation, extra connection, extra joy, and if anything, it's simply sharing the nourishment and the frequency of cacao, and it's bound to have a ripple effect in some way, and you might even introduce people to it who decide to start drinking cacao in the new year and make it a new part of their life. So I really encourage bringing cacao into the holidays, and I feel that it could even be like a beautiful activity to do with your people if they're open to it. You could have an intentional sit together and bring through that beautiful medicine of unconditional love, which really, isn't that what Christmas and New Year are all about? It's the love of being together, being connected, the possibility of a clean slate of a new year. And so they're all amazing opportunities for intentional creation of time together. So I hope that some of you will do that, and I know I'll be sharing cacao wherever I can with whoever I can. And feel free to let me know how it goes. If you want to reach out and share any cacao sharing stories with me, I'd love to hear them. So speaking of the holidays, I said I would share a presence exercise with you, and I have some channeled words from cacao which kind of relate to that as well. And I will share those shortly. Before I do, I just wanted to tell you about my one-to-one offers as well. Cacao is amazing for working with other healing modalities, because cacao brings us into a space where we can become more open to receiving. Cacao is so much about receiving, and a lot of the time when it comes to healing, it's about allowing ourselves to receive that healing, receive the medicine. So I absolutely love to bring cacao into a healing space, and I work with Angelic Reiki, which is like Reiki, and it's also working with the angels with their ascended masters, allowing their very high frequencies to come through and bring us more light and shift any lower frequencies in our bodies and our energy field. Cacao goes beautifully with Angelic Reiki, and I say this as an example of how cacao can be used in many different healing modalities, whether it's anything to do with creativity, music, art therapy. I have a beautiful friend who uses it for art therapy, any energy healing, even things like body work, massage, because it helps to break down our barriers to that which we're experiencing, and it's calming for the nervous system and shifts us out of the head and into the heart, which is a beautiful space to be in when going through a healing session. So if you are a body worker or a healer, I highly recommend bringing cacao into your practice if it's something that you feel drawn to, if you feel that call. Of course, it's not necessary, it's just if you feel the call to work with cacao. And that is something I love to do, and I share these things separately. I'm available for one-to-one cacao sessions, which is like a connection session where I facilitate your connection to cacao and to your heart and to anything you're moving through in that time. I also offer Angelic Reiki on its own. My very, very favourite thing to do is to bring them together in a session. And I think these sessions can be quite powerful at the end of the year or the start of the new year as a space to give yourself space to drop in and kind of take stock of where you're at. We can create space to let go of the old and bring in the new, and I'm the facilitator to be there for you to support that process through those tools of cacao and or Angelic Reiki. So if that sounds supportive to you, please send me an email or a DM on Instagram and I can send you all the details. I absolutely love facilitating these sessions, and I'd be really honoured to do that with you if you wanted to go through a kind of a completion and then renewal process for the new year. Cacao is one of the greatest allies for setting intentions, which is a big thing that a lot of people do at the start of the year, but I think that may be one of the reasons that some of the intentions, the New Year resolutions that people set, a lot of the time they don't stick. One big reason for that, I think, is because these resolutions are coming from the mind. It's this thing that we think we have to do to make everything better, or we think we need this because then we're going to feel better. If we can set our New Year's resolutions from our heart, from something really meaningful, it's much more likely to stick. And cacao is a really supportive way of doing that. So as I said, if you'd like more information on that, reach out to me. We're moving through a lot of things today. Thank you for being here in it with me. And I actually took a small pause earlier. I paused the recording and I went and made a little bit more cacao because I was like, wow, there's quite a few things to get through here, so I might need more cacao to fuel me through it, to keep going. And so I squeezed a little bit of orange juice into it. I like to do that every now and again with my cacao, have it, kind of that chocolate orange flavour going on. So I'll just take a sip. And with this beautiful cacao, I would like to share with you, towards our closing, we can come into our hearts a bit more. We've just been talking about lots of different things, and I'd like to bring us back into the moment with some beautiful words that came through on day 5 of my 28 days. Like I said, a lot of words came through in the first week, and then things got much quieter, and then they kind of started to flow through again towards the end. So yeah, interesting process. So on day 5, these words came through about stillness and movement, which feels really apt for this time of year. I feel like that's what Christmas can be a little bit about. There's a lot of movement, of activity and time with family and things to prepare and things to do and organize to make sure we have the time that we're wanting to have. And it's also a time of stillness, of being together, of being present with the experiences, finding the pauses in between the busyness, which is so important when there's so much going on. So this piece from Cacao that came through it's very much about stillness and movement. So here we are. Stillness is a sacred blessing. The pauses in between all the movement of life. Those pauses are a blessing. But do not mistake movement as a curse. Movement is not a burden. I too must move. I grow and I change as to fruit, and then I am harvested, chopped, churned, laid out to dry, and turned, packaged, transported, and moved into sacks and out of sacks. And I must continue to change form. Into the grinding stone I go, to be transformed from firm to soft, then poured into a mold, and transported many more times before I finally touch your lips. Even you put me to the grinding stone, that knife, the blade, before you drink. There is much movement, and I must yield to transformation if I am to be the medicine for you. The movement is necessary, as is the stillness. The pauses, the moments I quietly ferment in my own juices overnight. The quietness of drying out in the sun. The sitting in sacks between travels. The waiting in your cupboards. That moment of stillness in your mug as you hold me with presence before you drink. Then occurs the ultimate transformation, where we merge. But until then, those moments of stillness are sacred, as is the movement, the grinding and the transformation. Do not take any of it for granted. The stillness gives space for the transformation. They both are medicine. So with those words, we've had quite a bit of movement in this episode, and I imagine you might have some movement in the rest of your day. So let us take a pause before we end. I just want to invite you into a moment of presence, which, if you wish, if it resonates, could be something that you carry forward into the holidays, to remain present so as not to get overwhelmed by distraction or busyness, things to do. And so I invite you to come into presence right now and use this anytime you wish going forward. So what we will do is begin with a breath. Anytime that you notice yourself spinning out a little or getting too in the mind, come back to your breath and bring your awareness into your center. Drop your awareness from your mind's eye down into your heart, right in the center of your chest. And think of the way you feel when you drink cacao, that beautiful heart-opening medicine, that resonance that comes into your heart field, feeling it right from the center of your chest, and it expands outwards. So you might notice it in your chest as a tiny flame or a spark, and breathe into that spark, breathe into that resonance. And as you breathe, seeing it expand, it might expand into a flame or simply light, letting that fire or that light expand outwards, outside of your chest, and expand around you into your aura, into your energy field. You might have your hands on your chest to feel your body, and feel how you're enveloped by that heart expansive energy. Feel how it's moving around you and pulsing with your heartbeat in and out. And just noticing the resonance and how it expands out and out and out and out. And as it does, it's holding you in a beautiful protective container of your own frequency. It's giving you a way to navigate the world around you from your own space, and also from an open-hearted space where you're open to what life is bringing you. And you don't need to mentally remember any of this, just feeling that frequency of openness in your heart, feeling the flame or the light, even if it's just a tiny ripple. Is there a ripple in your heart? You can let it ripple outwards. Breathe into this feeling. Feel how supportive it is. See if you can anchor it into your memory with an image. Maybe it's the flame, or it might be a rosebud that's blooming in your heart. Bring this image into your mind's eye and bring it with you as you open your eyes and come back into the day, and know that you can return to this feeling of heart resonance and awareness at any moment that things feel a bit overwhelming. Just take, even if it's just 10 seconds to drop in, take 3 breaths into the heart. Remember that sensation of the spark rippling, the light, and the expanded energy around you. May that be supportive to you going forward. May you have presence and heart resonance in your days. May there be peacefulness and moments of stillness in between the movement. May the movement be joyful. May that dance between doing all the things you need to do and taking the pauses to replenish, may it be a beautiful dance. Thank you for being here with me today and listening. I so appreciate it. I really feel honored to share this time with you, and I'm excited to keep going forward on this journey together. So thank you for being here. The birds are chirping for us in the background as I finish up, and thank you to beautiful, beautiful Cacao once again for bringing us together. May this frequency of Cacao bless you as you move forward. And may you have a beautiful, beautiful end of your year. So much love, so much peace, and so much beautiful heart resonance. Take care and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you for opening your heart here and listening today. Please subscribe to keep getting episodes in Apple, Spotify, or YouTube. And please share this podcast with your cacao-loving friends. You can follow us on Instagram at lovedbycacao. Please take care of your heart and may you feel loved.